qualify for as much as 25 grand that could be put towards a home purchase. And Joe Biden is also tanking on junk fees and rising food prices. But so far, everybody, although more Americans own homes than rent, experts say the number of gap between the two categories is shrinking. This is as housing costs continue to climb, pricing out prospective homeowners. And more economically disadvantaged renters may get the chance to own a home in the future if a down payment assistance bill is developed during Joe Biden's campaign for president. The Down Payment and Toward Equity Act is the first time buyer home grant promises to administer $100 billion in direct assistance to families first time. It's going to provide qualifying assistance to certain first-time, first-generation homeowners in purchasing their first homes. Up to 25 grand in funding is given at closing rather than offered as a tax relief credit and can be used to assist people who are eligible for home buyers with mortgage down payments. A first-time home buyer is also defined as someone who hasn't really owned a home in the prior 3 years, while first-generation buyers, somebody eligible for the grant program, if their parents or guardians have never bought a house in the United States. Under this plan, to qualify for the 25 grand, homeowners have to have a certain household income of less than 120% of the area median income. In the case of a home buyer acquiring an eligible home that is actually in a high-cost area, buyers can qualify if they earn up to 180% of the median income in the area. To remain qualified for the assistance program, the home buyer has to live in the house, purchase for 5 years, or risk paying back a portion of the grant. Home buyers have to actually compete and complete a government-approved homeownership education course, and grant money cannot be used for a second home. Originally, it was introduced in July 2021, but now Joe Biden's taking it up for his 2024 run. And the Biden administration has proposed new guidelines for corporate mergers, took steps to disclose junk fees changed by landlords, and launched a crackdown on price gouging in the food industry. The announcements were discussed as part of Joe Biden's meeting with the White House Competition Council. A group of officials even established under a 2021 executive order said this is possible. The council has focused on creating more transparency for consumers and finding approaches to efforts that will work and help out the American people. The Department of Justice and FTC are proposing revising the guidelines on how they evaluate the mergers. The goal is to provide more clarity on these programs and to give justice to the American people. Social Security recipients, everybody, can now face an increase in waiting times to receive monthly benefits. Congress is now expected to decrease the funding for several programs, including Social Security. Retirement eligibility is also possible, too.
Micron are being kept literally within the first year of the decision to come to Central New York. So I could not be prouder to talk about this opportunity to transform lives forever and ever, starting with our children. How unusual is that? When you talk about a big company that manufactures, makes semiconductors, what does it have to do with children? Well, Micron's enlightened enough to know it has to do with everything. And let's talk about that. But first, I want to recognize our leaders.
It's finally, and it could happen, everybody. The top Republicans are eyeing a brand new deal with Democrats on spending. And the good news is that this agreement could lead to more direct relief payments to the people of America. That's only if an agreement is reached. But millions of households could begin to receive monthly checks worth hundreds of dollars. Now, tax writers in the House and the Senate are gearing up for negotiations over some tax reform, as comes as lawmakers introduce their first proposals for a big stimulus package, folks. And this is expected to garner widespread support from both sides of the aisle. So Senate Democrats have made it clear that they would like to make some form of the crisis-era child tax credit permanent, while the House Republicans are proposing a comprehensive bill that would include an estimated $240 billion in tax cuts for the big and small businesses and individuals of America. But for 6 months during the crisis, the federal government gave parents up to $300 a month as part of the child tax credit that Joe Biden created. Not only that, but knowing that the child tax credit is a top issue for Democrats, some GOP representatives have said that this is a bargaining chip that they can use in reaching a deal on tax reform. Even a Democratic Senator, Michael Bennet, told reporters that the child tax credit, as we saw for those 6 months, was the most significant domestic policy achievement, and if we can reenact it, it would be again. growing interest in reimplementing some form of child tax credit would incentivize congressional Republicans to use the policy as a way to negotiate with Democrats. A number of states, including California, Colorado, Maryland, and Massachusetts, and even New Jersey and New Mexico, and New York and Vermont have passed their own programs offering similar credits to families that want the money. Even Republicans like the governor of Montana have introduced a bill to provide this type of relief to parents, and some congressional Republicans are beginning to warn the idea of cutting a tax deal with a family benefit. Even as Senator J.D. Vance of Ohio told reporters that it's one of the few issues of tax policy where there is some bipartisan agreement, and then Senator Todd Young said that there will be some GOP interest in a child tax credit if it's properly constructed and properly sized in the tax package, and there might be significant whittling down of the $300 monthly payments that were offered in 2021. But still, folks, it makes sense for Joe Biden to do this. It makes sense for our stimulus checks to be sent out, and it makes sense for Joe Biden to pass the fourth stimulus payments for sure. And now, this might significantly whittle down $300 payments before, but it's still, the White House is insisting on some form of the expansion of this tax credit. And now, the National Economic Council Director has also wrote in a recent memo that he believes any bill that cuts taxes for large corporations might be for the working families and children of America. Pennsylvania families, for instance, are across the income spectrum. They can be expected to receive about $2.5 billion in tax breaks in 2028 under two bills passed by the State House last week. The proposal is passed with bipartisan support, but they not even might pass the GOP-controlled state Senate.
$600 stimulus checks are going out, and the money could be showing up soon in your bank account. Brian Malahy asking questions about how this money is going to impact people in Utah. And Brian, you talked to some people today. What are they saying about this stimulus money?
One in particular who said it's helpful, it's better than nothing, but it doesn't appear to be having a great effect in terms of victory laps over $600. We're outside Anna's restaurant in Murray. You can see that the lights are off. It has had dine-in through much of the pandemic. Used to be open from 7 a.m. until 9 p.m. Now it closes at 4 in the afternoon.
No guaranteed paid sick time. So that's not cool, and that's not right, and it's definitely not good, and it's definitely not what we want to hear from Joe Biden. What we want to see is that Joe Biden do more for the people in sending out stimulus payments, because he should definitely do something now while he still has the chance. Because as the U.S. enters a recession this year, everybody, we have important news for Social Security, SSI, SSDI, and even SSA. They have proposed a brand new stimulus program. When I say they, I'm talking about Democrats and Republicans. They will allocate billions of dollars towards new relief. Some Americans will receive these checks automatically, while others are going to have to a little bit more action. So there is a little less than a month before Colorado residents, even who file their taxes, receive this extra money. The Colorado Cashback Program, for instance, will give taxpayers who file their 2021 taxes by October 17th, $750 by the end of this month of January. Eligible couples will get $1,500 and